So credit cards work very similarly. So we're going to say we have a credit card balance of $2,300 with an annual interest rate of 21%. And that's actually on the low side. You decide to pay off your balance over 1 year. How much will you need to pay each month? Do you notice anything odd about the interest rate? Yes, it's astronomically high compared to the student loans we were just calculating. And you want to know the only thing with a worse interest rate? Payday loans. I'm dead serious. Borrow from anyone else before you take a payday loan, ever. Because if you don't pay it back, the interest explodes on it. It's insane. All right. So it's going to be a 1-year loan. We're going to pay off that $2,300 with a whopping 0.21 over 12. It does still get divided by 12. 1 minus, open 1 plus 0.21 over 12. Close. Raised to the open negative. And this is 12 times 1. So just negative 12. So $214.16. All right. Just for curiosity, though, I like to know, because it's only 12 payments. That's not too bad, actually. You're paying $269.92 extra. But it's a small amount and you're paying it off over the course of 1 year. Now, if you have credit card trouble, things get a little more interesting. So now we have a balance of $9,500, but you lose your job. So we are credit card company is going to charge an interest rate of 21% compounded daily. So our N is going to change. And we get to not pay until we find a new job, but we're going to be charged interest. So if it takes you a whole year, how much will your balance be after 1 year? So for this one, we're trying to figure out how much interest will accrue over that 1 year with the APR being compounded daily. So this is actually going back to compound interest formula. So that compound interest formula was A equals the principal times 1 plus APR over N, where N is the number of times per year, and that is raised to the N times, book used Y, I think I used T, whichever, the number of years. I think the Y is actually a little better, but every once in a while they write a math problem weird where you don't put years there. It's rare though, at least in math land. So that's the formula we're going to use. So we start with the 9,500. And then that is going to get 1 plus 0.21 over 12. Oh, sorry, not 12. Let's see, already, boo-boo. 365, because this was compounded daily. And then 365 times 1 is just 365. So we'll just do that. So $11,719.23. So that is how much is now your credit card debt after the 1 year when you have the job. That's a lot more. She's paying a little over $2,200 extra in interest. It's a lot of extra money when you've lost your job. So this is how people can very quickly get into a lot of trouble with credit cards in particular. So please, please, please be very careful with credit cards, because having debt like this can just be monstrous. All right, pause it and come back.